devices. I can see what the hell it is I'm doing. Thought I was ready. I wasn't ready. Hey, Indian Head Valley. How you doing, sir? Welcome to the impromptu. Oh, man. What a day. Let's see. What do I want to mess with? Yeah. I guess I'll mess with the FP45 first. See if I can figure out what's going on with it. All right. Not bad. All right, Wilmer. How's life treating you, my friend? Oh, geez. Now there's trouble. What's going on, John? First I got not bad. And now I've got what's going on. Oh. Yeah, I hear you, Wilmer. Yeah, we just moving right along. All right, that's good. Oh, wrong one. Hey, Dwayne. Dwayne's back again. So is Model Railer. I love it. This one here was extremely impromptu. I just decided, what the hey. I had so much fun last night, figured we'd go ahead and do it again. Wasn't that George Carlin that did that, doing it again? Really missed that guy. He knew what was going on. Perplexing. Ah, there's the problem. Okay. There we go. That ought to run better now. I'm just working. Actually, I'm doing some maintenance on some of the locomotives that I was having issues with. This happens to be the Chesapeake and Ohio FP45. What was happening with it? It was running for the most part, but it would start skipping. And I just found out why. The one set of trucks back here, the one pickup wheel had a lot of garbage on it. I thought that I had gone through and cleaned these things up pretty good before I put them on the railroad, but apparently this one here was a little under par. So a little bit of cleanup, and we'll put him back on the layout and we'll see what happens. I can tell that the gear. I knew that the gearing and all was good because when I went through when I first started. It's kind of tough for me to do what I want to do here. Give me a second here. Let me get this locomotive back together. All right, so he's ready for the layout again. Let me see. I wonder what I did with that. I'm not even sure it's down here. Nah. Not sure what I did with it, but I'll tell you what we're going to do. Trying to think if there's a way. You know, you all, oh. Oh, you all. I thought that I had my mini camera stand down here, but I don't. So we're going to have to do a little bit of finagling here. Oh, that's an earthquake. Let's try this. That better? Jeez. See, if I'm looking at the camera, though, I can't pay attention to what I'm doing on the bench. And the worst part of it is now the camera's over here and the computer screen's over here. So now I can't see what's going on the chat and see what's going on. You know what? This is a mess. But there is a correction for this. There is another way. Let's see. There is another way of doing this. And I just have to do it this way. There we go. Now, the only thing I got to do is I can sit there and... Oh, for Pete's sake, let's get off the... Sparky and Model Rail, here they go again with the Okay, guys. All right, smarty pants. Smarty pants. Jeez. Yeah, the metal posts. Yeah, go ahead. Keep asking about the metal posts. I see how it is. I see how it is. Oh. Oops. Sheesh. Oh, boy. Ugh. Well, this one here ought to be an easy fix, because I know what's up with this. I just have to figure out how to fix it. Do 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 do. Yeah, having fun at my expense, I'm sure. Yeah, it was a lot of fun last night. I must admit that was a blast. That was an absolute blast. Having fun at my expense. But that's okay. That's all good. It's all good. It's all good. I'll remember that. Wait a minute. I'm old and senile. I'll doubt that I'll remember it. All right. I can see that this is going to have to come a little bit further apart than what I would like. No, Dave, I don't think it was Grandpa Rails' fault. I very seriously doubt that Grandpa Rails, you're trying to mess with him. I know. No, I know who the culprit was. Or I should say culprits. I knew who the culprits were. Night, John. There we go. That's one side. And if you're wondering what I'm working on now, is it's a Atlas Cotto RS3 that I picked up from a train show. Not this year, but last year. It's painted up for the Louisville and Nashville, and it had a very interesting little issue, and that was the fact that the light bar that was in here came out. And I thought that I had this back in here correctly, but apparently I don't. So it's going to go that way. Okay. So I've got to try this again. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Yeah, it's actually an Atlas unit with a Cotto drive, believe it or not. At least that's what I was told. And I've actually seen a few of them like this. Now, that still ain't right. I think I actually had this thing in here the correct way the first time. But anyway, the light bar came out of it, and on both ends, there's the light. The light is actually in the middle of the locomotive, and the light bar actually goes from the center of the locomotive to the front and the rear. So there's one for the front, and then there's one for the rear end of the locomotive, and they both came out. And part of the issue is I think that this locomotive has been toyed with a little bit. It doesn't have the mounting screws anymore, so it has a tendency of wanting to not stay together. It's a very dainty locomotive, let's put it that way. There we go. Sweet. I know it runs, it was just the fact that it kept coming apart. So he's ready for the layout. Like I said, I knew that one was going to be an easy fix, because I already had it running. It was just the fact that when I picked it up at one point, it just went, and it all just came apart. Hey, Rodney! Grandpa! Let's see. I'm actually watching the chat on my cell phone over here, even though it's being, I'm actually using my desktop computer for the live stream tonight instead of the laptop. But I figured I'd go over here to the workbench and try and get some of the locomotives and rolling stock fixed that Rob was having issues with. Let's see. Really, I'd like to get that one. I'd like to get that one taken care of. These others I'm not too concerned about at the moment. All my daggone U-boats. But we're going to work on the BL2s first. Or see if we can get the BL2s going. And no, Dave, before you ask, I did not get a chance to go back and set up any more mods last night. After I got done, I kind of did some cleanup down here, and I called it a night. I went to bed. I was done. Let's see here. This one was one of the ones that was having issues. Where it was smoldering. A lot. Dwayne The Rock Johnson and Jumanji. All right, that's not going to work. All my rowdy friends are coming over tonight. I won't do that again. Hey, Jeff. Hey, I'm sorry if I'm missing anybody that happens to be popping in on the chat side. I've got the computer running the actual camera, and I'm sitting here working on the locomotives, and every once in a while I'll pop up and see who's in the chat here on on my cell phone, and that's kind of how we're working things tonight. It was kind of impromptu. It was just one of those things, and why not? Why not? I hate it when I do that. I just knocked the coupler on the floor. Knocked the box off and everything. How the heck do you get in there? Hey. Hey. All right. I think I'm going to have to put him off to the side for further investigation for the moment. I'm going to grab the coupler off the floor. Upon further review, let's see what happens. Oh, yeah. Yeah, ain't that the truth, Jeff? Ain't that the truth? It's kind of one of the reasons why I'm over here at the workbench tonight. I just got finished doing some other things, prepping for what will be vlog 14 later on this week, and hmm. I actually use. Give me a second. I can hang with that. I can hang with that real well. Hey, I've got one of my BL2s back. One of 4. Well, it would help to go ahead and take the test leads off. JD, what I use for grease and oil, give me a second here. Yeah, I got it back together, but I can't get it to snap shut. The snapper ain't working. Stop it, Sparky. Let's see. Where is my? There they are. There they are. What I use is, sorry if I kicked the camera there. This is actually Bachman oil. They've got it for model, obviously for model trains. I picked it up at one of the local hobby shops years ago, and this is actually the only bottle I've ever had of it. You don't need but a drop. I mean, it doesn't take much. And when you do use it, you'll notice if you get if the bearings in a locomotive are starting to get a little noisy, that's the perfect stuff. Now, as far as the grease goes, this is Atlas Gear Lube. I actually had Bachman Gear Lube, which is the same stuff. It's a paste. And again, if I was in doing any type of work on the gearing, I'm sure you can't really see over here, but I've got toothpicks sticking up on my piece of foam, and those toothpicks, I'll go ahead and I'll take and, just literally dip the tip, and that's it. I mean, there's very little on there. You just go ahead and you put that on either on top on one of the gears, or if you opened up the bottom, take the trucks off of it, the truck side frames off, and you get to the gears that way. Like I said, just a drop, and once you start running a locomotive, it'll go all the way through. Now, some of the locomotives that I've picked up in the past, and I think, in fact, the other day I was actually looking at it because I think somebody else was asking about how maintenance was done on locomotives, and I've actually got a couple of videos up under how did he do that. There's actually a folder called How Did He Do That, and it talks about the locomotive. It talks about diesel locomotive maintenance and steam locomotive maintenance. And the reason why it's two separate pieces is steam locomotives are a little bit different, obviously, when it comes to doing maintenance on them, because you've not only got the motor, but you've also got the rods, the bearings on and such on there. And with those, I actually use something a little different. Dry graphite works really well for that, but you got to be real careful with this stuff because it's in powder form and it comes out in a hurry. I actually had the B unit for my Pennsylvania passenger train was squeaking the other day, and I'm like, you know what, I need to do something with that. So I went ahead and squirted a little bit of this in there. Yeah, for like the next couple of hours, it was dropping graphite all over the place. So you got to be real careful with that stuff. But yeah, still thinking about the whole Patreon thing. I'm up in the air. I think like I said, I'm going to take the advice of a couple other folks that I talked to. I think what I'm going to do is kind of let this thing play out a little bit. Like I said, tonight was I had so much fun last night, and of course it's not like I get a lot of people because I've only got 240 some subscribers. But I figure, hey, I'm not doing much. I need to do some maintenance. It's not something that everybody shows. Well, let me go ahead and fire up the camera real quick. We'll go ahead and set up the workbench, and I'll start doing some locomotive maintenance. And, that way people get a chance to see how it works, see what goes on, see what makes it tick. So that's what we're in the process of doing. Oh, you know what? There is one other thing I want to show real quick since we're doing locomotive maintenance. There it is. Sorry about that. As I know most of you are aware, I bought this RDC pair actually at the same time I got the that S unit. I had an issue with this pair not that long ago, actually about a week ago or so. I had at one point in time, this is an old Athearn rubber band drive, and I've gone ahead and gotten rid of the rubber band drive. The motor's still in there, the jack shafts, all that's still in there, but I took the piece that goes across the motor so that way the motor doesn't turn on, because I wanted to use these as a pair. Now this is a Proto 1000. I think this is an RDC3 and this is an RDC1, and I wanted to run them as a pair. But like I said, this back one here is a dummy. It's not going to run. I don't want it to run. It'll never run again, as far as I'm concerned. Not with the old hi-fi rubber band drive, if anybody's familiar with that. Well, what I had done when I had the old layout is I had a piece of styrene between the two units, which worked great. The problem is on this layout, with the way that all the curves and all were, it basically wore out and it snapped on me. So I was like, there's got to be a better way of building a drawbar, a dummy drawbar between these two units. Yeah, well, being the electrical guru that I am, I actually took, and it's going to be kind of really tough to see here, I think. And I'm not sure if I've got the same type of controller with this camera on this particular. No, I don't. I don't have the controls that I have it on the laptop. It's a shame. But anyway, I'll have to get a little bit closer shot of this. What I did is I took two of the circular type electrical connections, put one on one side, put one on the other side, and then took a barrel connector, you know, where you would bring two wires together and then crimp them. I drilled it out and I put wire through it and then crimped on either end, and I've got myself a drawbar between the two units, and it's worked out great. I mean, it's got plenty of flexibility. It's worked out well. So sometimes the necessity is the mother of invention. Rubber band drive, you know, since I brought that nasty thing up, this one here is a little bit, but we'll do it anyway. The old hi-fi Athearn rubber band drive. This is circa 1960. And these things are a mess. There you go. If you're familiar with the normal Athearn drive, there's the normal Athearn drive, except for the fact instead of having gears down at the wheels, you actually would have rubber bands that would go from these shafts down to the wheels, and all 8 wheels would be driven. But the problem with rubber band drive, number one, the rubber bands wear out, they stretch, and the other issue with them is they create an awful lot of drag. So I've actually got, because a buddy of mine has, and I've still got the locomotive because unfortunately he fell on some hard times, but I've got an old Santa Fe Tiger Stripe locomotive that's the same era as this. That's got the rubber band drive. And I actually bought the rubber bands for it. The issue with that one is the connectors here. I think this one's a little bit newer, because this one here has actually got plastic between the plastic universals between the actual where the rubber bands would go through the frame. That one actually has a rubber coupling, and the rubber couplings are shot. So that one there will never run either. But like I said, I do have the rubber bands. If I ever decided I wanted to go ahead and take this apart and run them as an RDC1 and an RDC3, yeah, I could do that. But like I said, this thing just has so much drag when it's just not worth it. It's just not feasible. So that's the reason why I dummied this one and made them into a pair. But I've always liked the RDCs. I thought that they were a unique locomotive. You know, a self-propelled passenger car, basically. When I first saw one, I saw a model of one. I was like, wait a minute, is that a dome on top of that car? No, it's where the motor is. And these things, this thing is a pain in the butt to get back together. If it doesn't go on perfectly straight, come on. There we go. Almost there. No, this side's too far. There it goes. There we go. All back together. So now you got to see hi-fi rubber band drive. Yay! Something to tell grandkids about. You should have seen this old timer with his work. Never mind. I'm not. Let me stop. You know, the dental bands. You're right. You know, it's funny though. Some of these locomotives, not the ones that not these particularly, but I do actually have a couple that had traction tires, and I know some folks are probably like, oh, but you know, my dad and I actually found something years ago with locomotives that have traction tires. You know what really works well for those? Eyeglass bands. The bands that you put on your eyeglasses to go ahead and tighten them up. You can actually take those rubber O-rings and put them in some hot water and they'll stretch out. You can run them over top the wheels. They work forever. They will run for a while like that. So that's one of those neat things. And this here happens to be one of those old growlers, an AHM unit. Let's see if I can get power to this dude. Because I think the issue with this was the same issue that I had with the Chesapeake or the chassis system unit. I think it's got a bad pickup. Losing my mind. Night, Dwayne. Oh, that's one of the traction tires, I think. Whew. The old AHM units. Oh, poo. It's the only thing I don't like about them. Well, there's a few things that I don't like about them, but this is one of them. These stinking wires. The way that they put this together is a little tricky. And of course, with one good hand and one bad hand, this ought to be cute. Trying to get this back in place without ruining. All right, you want to play rough? Let's play rough. Ruff, ruff. I better not do that too loud. I'll have the dogs down here barking at me. Who let the dogs out? Got it. The spring-loaded catch. Hey, Nora. Well, there's a surprise. Good evening. I was watching you for a bit last night after I got done with my actually Sunday nights or Sidetrack Sunday. After I got roasted by Sparky. Oh. Yeah, you know how Nora was saying last night that I run some fairly small equipment. That's the reason why I'm using 22-inch radius. Yeah, well, here you go. It's a AHM BL2. It's one of two AHM BL2s that I've got, and then of course I've got two Proto 2000 Lifelike Proto 2000 BL2s. Now, why doesn't this thing want to come apart? Why do you want to be such a pain tonight? So of all my locomotives, I had a few, and I've still got a bunch that I had issues with after I moved. And it's still hard to believe that that was a year ago when I moved. It's insanity where this past year went, and where I'm at with this current menagerie behind me. Yeah, I keep forgetting about that, Rod. That you're running 15, 18. Yeah, I'm running 22 on the main. I'll be running. I've got in the industrial areas. I'm running 18, and when I build the city, the trolley line will be 15. That'll be fun to try and find 15-inch radius. I know it's out there, but it'll be fun trying to find it. Now this locomotive I just picked up, and I have not rewired it yet. And what I mean by that is with these AHM units, what I've done in the past is I've actually wired it up to where one pickup is in the front and the other pickup is in the rear. And this one here I haven't modified yet, which isn't a big deal. It'll work this way, but it's a little sketchy. So we'll see if I can get it to go. If it'll go, fine. If not, then I'll have to bring it back over here to the bench and desolder it and resolder it. And if anybody is wondering what this is that I'm using, this is crocus cloth. This is basically a polisher. It's an extremely fine grit. If you really want to call it sandpaper, it's really more of a polishing paper. My dad and I have used this stuff for years. God rest his soul. On all the locomotives, and actually used it on the track as well to polish it up. You got to just remember one thing, and that's when you're doing the rails that you actually go with the rails and not against the rails, obviously. Because even though it is just a polisher, it will leave some minor grooving, but it's never really caused us a problem. So I'm just going to go ahead and shine up these wheels a little bit and see if we can get this guy to run a little bit better. Doesn't hurt to give it a shot, and then, like I said, later on, I'll make sure I mark the maintenance thing that it needs to be updated, at least as far as my standards go. Whatever you want to call that standard. It's the Beauville and Newtown standard. Oh, we're a disappearing breed, us old DC guys. Yeah, Nora, you had some interesting folks on there last night. I think, is that one fellow from Australia that was in there? You know, I actually, to be honest, Nora, I mean, it's, since this is what, I actually attempted using another software, and I had all sorts of, the guys actually, I think Sparky and Wilmer, I think were in there, possibly Grandpa. I was having all sorts of trouble with, and then I found StreamYard, and I tell you what, this is great. Point, click, shoot, done. You know, it's easy. It's really easy, and I like that. I mean, not that I don't mind complex, but sometimes with the job that I do, complex is something I deal with on a daily basis. I like something that's point, click, and done. It makes it so much nicer. Makes it so much nicer. That actually looks pretty. That actually looks halfway decent. I know that there's some folks that I mean, of course, every software has got their, has got their ups and their downs and their good points and their bad points, and it is what it is. To each his own. If it works for you, it works for you. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you, and that's that's the thing. It's funny. I've got a 21-year-old daughter, and I've asked her, hey, do you know anything about this company? Hey, do you know anything about this company? Hey, have you ever tried this? Because I know she does a lot of stuff, online. And it's like, she's like, no, never heard of them. I'll have to give them a shot. I'm like, well, it's it's like this. And it's like, oh, okay. So, all right. We'll see how my BL2s do. Let's see who else we've got in the box. What's left in the box, Ray? Let's see. You know what? I'd like to get my U-boats running. That's what I'd like to do. So let's work on the U-boats. And this is a menagerie. Yeah, that's going to be the neat thing I've noticed with StreamYard is the fact that you can actually have other people on with you. That's kind of cool. That's kind of neat. Of course, I'm nowhere near that level yet, but hey. and Nora, I guess your name. I'm sorry, I am terrible with names, and I screw things up all the time. So it happens to come with the age. I'm not going to go there, and I know there's a lot of people on here that are older than I am, and like I said, it's just my mind doesn't work the way it used to. Not sure if you've seen, or for anybody, but there is the layout. Hey, okay, so I did get it right. Jake. Okay, cool. Thanks, Rod. See, I can't forget Rodney because his is actually in the name. And as you can see, it's kind of hard to see in the picture, but you can actually see back here. I actually did put the shelving up on the bracing for the backdrop. Hey, William. I actually put the shelving on the backside of the backdrop for my locomotives. That'll be a part of that are actually in the staging yards on the backside of the backdrop. So that's part of log 14. That's what's coming. I'm going to swing back around here and go back to the bench so we can work on the U-boats. And this is a menagerie here, folks. This is an absolute menagerie. We've got an Atlas unit, an Atherin unit, and a Bachmann unit. It doesn't get more goofed up than that. Now, ask me which one I like the most. Did Sparky leave? I guess Sparky left us, huh? Sparky went to bed. Now, that's the nice thing. I don't have to get up real early in the morning anymore to go to work. I just come down here. That's what's behind me. Over here. That's now my desk for my office. I have been forced to work from home. Oh, poor me. The chassis unit is a 4127, actually. It's actually a 4127 Chesapeake in Ohio. And of course, anybody who has seen my railroad knows that I am a big fan of the Eastern Seaboard railroads. A lot of the stuff that I run is chassis system, Pennsylvania, Reading. Let's see, who else have I've got a lot of, I've got some stuff that isn't East Coast. I've got a Wabash locomotive. I've got the Seaboard that's southern eastern or southeastern. I've got some southern stuff. I'm also a fan of odd paint schemes, or interesting paint. I shouldn't say odd paint schemes, but interesting paint schemes. And anybody who knows, yeah, I know there's a difference between these three U-boats. I'm not sure what the difference. I mean, I can tell by the dynamic for the radiator on the rear that they're different, but I'm not sure what the actual nomenclature is for these. So if you want to enlighten me there, Grandpa, that would be greatly appreciated. And in fact, if you're going to do that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fire up my inventory sheet so I actually get this right. Let's see. That's not what I was looking for, but okay. Thanks, William. I appreciate that. It was a lot of fun. That was actually a blast. I really had fun with that. And I'm glad that everybody else did too and had fun at my expense on top of it. But then again, what are friends for? You know? I can take it as well as I can dish it out. Okay. I'm not exactly sure what this one's issue was. Couplers seem to be okay. Unless, of course, it was the wheels. The wheels don't look that bad either. And we'll put him back on the layout and see what happens. That is an old Atlas unit, my friend. One of the odd things with this particular one is the fact that I picked this one up used years ago. It's an older Atlas unit, and it's funny because when it first starts up, you give it full power, it'll crawl, and then all of a sudden it'll just freaking take off on you. And after that, it's fine. You get all sorts of play on how much speed you've got with it, but just at initial, it just wants to crawl, and all of a sudden it'll just take off. Now the other thing is it wasn't sitting on track, so the gears, the trucks were sitting at obviously a little bit more of an odd angle than what they would normally. So that's going to create a little bit more noise, but I think we'll be all right. Although I think I lost the light bulb. Atlas had a unique, yeah, I certainly did. They had a unique way of doing this. Eventually, just like my Atherin units, I'm going to be getting rid of let me go ahead and show that real quick. I'm actually going to be at some point, not right this second, because I've got other things that are much bigger, but a lot of the older Atlas and Atherin units, they had this wonderful bar that transferred power from the trucks to the top of the motor through the commutator, and of course the frame is the other side. Well, this joint here has a bad tendency of losing contact, of course. So, and it's going to be a little bit tougher with this one. I'll show you what the Atherin unit looks like here in a minute, but I've actually got what they call flag connectors that'll actually slide onto the metal posts that come up from the trucks on the Atherin side. And I'm just taking a wire and I just solder it to the top of the motor here. I actually take there's another bar up underneath it here. You take that off, you solder two wires to it, one for the front and one for the rear, and then you've got a flexible connection between the two pickups, and that eliminates this thing getting any type of corrosion or something on it. Oh boy. Oh, more fun. I don't know, Will. I just hit 52 months ago. I'm not sure if this was one of the ones that I had modified. Nope, this isn't one of the ones I modified. All right. Youngsters. Yeah, Grandpa, we know, we know. You gotta love us youngins, you know. Still wet behind the ears. Oh, hello. Hmm. Or is there something up with the frame on this one? There we go. Oh, I see what's wrong with this one. Yay. Yeah, I've got two younger brothers that'll be having birthday. That'll have birthdays in June. One of them will hit. Let's see. One of them will hit 46, and the other one will hit 40. So 40 and 46. There's 40, 46, and then me at 50. And if you're wondering what I'm doing, this locomotive had some issues on the commutator. It looked like there was a lot of gunk buildup. I think that's the reason why it wasn't running right. And I'm trying to get into a better position here so I can see what's going on. Oh yeah, that helped. All right, Jake, rub it in. That's all right. The other day I was talking to one of the guys at work, and come to find out, he graduated from the same high school I did. The only difference is I graduated in '88. He graduated in 2003. I'm like, you know what? You just need to go away. Stop. Jeez, youngins. All right. Now, like I said before, gentlemen, and if there's any ladies in here, ladies, um, you notice the only thing I'm really doing is working on the wheels and the wheel sets. That's because I had already gone through all the locomotives before I had, or before they actually had run. I had actually put, gone through them top to bottom, made sure that they were, they had gear lube, made sure that the bearings were oiled, made sure that everything looked good on the inside. And I thought that I cleaned the wheels up and cleaned the motors up. I knew I had issues with my BL2, at least two of the BL2s, the two protos, they were smoking. There was garbage that had built up on the commutator, or up on the brushes. And that was the issue that Rock Island U-boat had. I think it was Grandpa was talking about the U-boats here, and I had the Burlington as a U-28, the Chessie system as a U-30, and I think the Rock Island I also had as a U-28, but I could be wrong on that. Like I said, any help with these, eventually I'm going to have to, go in and make sure that I've got, I want to make sure I've got these things listed right, obviously, for purposes of running the railroad, number one, and number two, just for general, just for GP. You know what, Rodney? You're right. You're never too old to play with trains. Absolutely not. I remember seeing a video a few years back. Actually, I've still got it. It was on one of the DVDs that I gotten from Model Railroad magazine. And they were interviewing John Armstrong with his Canandaigua Southern. And I was like, now here's a guy who's just, at this point, he is just having a blast. I love it. I hope that when I'm up that age, that I get to have a blast just like that. He was talking about he was sitting there talking about about the fact that his locomotives were 25 pounds apiece. Well, that's because he was doing O scale. You know, when you're running trains at that age, and you know when you got O gauge, 25 pounds of locomotive, I can't imagine. I really cannot imagine 25-pound locomotives. Sheesh. I don't even know why I'm bothering with this one, but hey, I need to move that. Actually, I probably need to move that one. Hey, there we go. That works better. I'm getting tired of hearing the static in my speakers. Yeah, you know, it's kind of like Howard Zane talked about. You know, there's a lot of preconceived notion that we're a bunch of old men. Well, some of us are that were not smart enough to put the trains away after Christmas, and that's not it at all. You know, we all know what we're into here. We all know what we're into here. That this is a hobby. This is far from toys or things of that nature. I mean, I don't care if you're into Z scale or the Garden Railroad, or even up to the one, what the heck, of the ride-ons. You know, yeah, there is some of the stuff is toy, but you know what? I don't see it like that. If you're doing the things that we're doing in our basements and our garages and our sheds, as some people are doing, you know, these aren't toy trains. These are models. You know, this is it. That there's a lot of creativity and so many different facets to this. You've got to know so many different things. You know, the carpentry, the electronics, the electrical. You know, the painting. You gotta learn all sorts of stuff to be able to put one of these monsters together. Hell, in some cases they're monsters. In other cases they're still fairly small. We all got to start someplace, you know. But I've seen some smaller layouts that rival, you know, some of the larger ones. I mean, there's a guy down in Texas. His name is David Nicastro. He's got a layout that's 8 feet by 4. That's 8 feet by 5 feet. And honest to goodness, you look at the detail of what he's got on that thing, you'd think it was a lot larger than what it actually is. I mean, that it's just insane. It's all in how it's presented, you know? It's all in how it's presented. All right. Oh, do I really want to mess with this son of a gun? No, my old atlases, they may not be toys, but they're antiques. I've got a few antiques. Wait a second. You guys want to see an antique? Give me a minute. Uh, I'm wondering if anybody has seen one of these. I'm covering up the tender for a reason. But this is actually a die-cast locomotive from the 60s, and it was put out by a company none other than then, like I said, this thing here, it still runs. All right, William, you have a good evening there, buddy. This belonged to my dad, and it still runs. I don't run it very often, but yeah, this is one of those things that I still definitely I do consider this thing an antique. Now, one of the interesting things though with it is the fact that years ago when I was a kid, I actually broke the drawbar. So my father took the top to a pill box or a pill container and actually cut the top out and made a drawbar for it. Because unlike the RDCs, you couldn't put a metal one in there; it would short out. But anyway, okie dokie. You know what? I think this one here is going to be the last locomotive for the night. This here is a, well, what the heck is this thing? $7614. Oh, it's a B&O unit. That's why. It's probably up at the top. There it is. This is an SD40-2. This is an Athearn unit. And this thing has never run right since day one, unfortunately. I don't know why. I've messed with it. I've played with it. I shouldn't say it's never run right. The issue that it has is it just makes all sorts of noise. Or it had. I'm trying to see if I see anything out of the ordinary, and every time I open it up, I never do. Never see anything that would cause it to make noise. Okay. Yeah, that's true, Rodney. It's for the likes of Lifelike and AHM and Tyco and so on and so forth. Bringing some of the stuff that they brought in, years ago, some of the things that some of the bigger manufacturers wouldn't touch. Number one, and number two, giving kids and dads a chance to, it's like one of my buddies. Actually, it's my sister-in-law's husband had wanted to get his two boys into playing or messing with the trains, and he asked me. He says, "Hey, what should I go out and buy? What should I get?" And I told him straight off the bat. I says, "Do yourself a favor." I said, "Don't go out and buy anything real expensive." I said, because you don't know if they're going to get into it. You don't know if they're going to want to be a part of it. Go ahead and pick up a Lifelike or a Bachmann set. I said, and let them have fun with it. I said, if they pick up on it, cool. If they don't, you haven't wasted a whole lot of money. Now, I said, if they get to the point where I'm at, and then you start buying the more expensive stuff. And, and I've been going through over the years, and, I've got some locomotives that are actually sitting up on the layout now that are actually either DCC ready, or had DCC boards in them that I actually took backwards, because I'm not DCC. But I like the locomotive. I like the color scheme, or I like the manufacturer. That's in the case of the Seaboard unit over there, the FTA. My Delaware and Hudson RF16. And there's one other one that I've got sitting. I don't know if it's sitting over there or if it's in the box, or if it's if it's in here, needs to be, if it's in one of the repair boxes. But there's another one that was a DC ready, or had the DCC board in it, and I took them out. So I do have some locomotives that if I went ahead and did DCC, I've already got a jump on that. I've only got like 3 locomotives, but a lot of the stuff that I have just isn't compatible, or isn't going to be compatible with DCC. And some of it, the Athearn units, yeah, I could go ahead and convert them. Everybody has basically messed with those. But, it's just, like I said, for right now, I'm just not. I see where things are headed, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to lay low for a little longer. I'll still do the DC game for a while. I'm familiar with it, and with the layout that I've got, like I was mentioning last night, I've only got 6 blocks on this layout. There's 3 on the north side and 3 on the south side. So it's not like there's a whole tangle and a mess of wire, and yeah, there's wire up underneath of there. But to be honest, if I went DCC, guess what? I would still need those bus lines anyways. So they're there. They're already there. The only thing I'd have to do is just change the way that they're set up on the terminal strips, and away I go. So, it'll be an easy conversion if I ever get to that point. But right now, I'm just not. Nah, I'm strictly a DC guy. And I'm down to 4 people. Night, Wilmer. Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and put this locomotive back together, or put the shell back on it, and button things up here, and I'm going to go ahead and call tonight myself. It's been a fairly long day. It was a halfway decent day, but it was a fairly long day. I'm going to go ahead and tie up the test leads here so that they don't cause a problem. And Yeah, like I said, the technology is right now. The technology is just changing so quick. I mean, granted, you're still going to have some sort of a DCC system, but I'm seeing more about using the phones and things of that nature. And I'm like, I'll just wait a little longer and see what else is coming. I mean, I think to a point too. Some of the stuff that's coming up, some of the things I've seen, it's like, man, you're really taking away some of what we've done for years. Some of the nuances and some of the idiosyncrasies that we've dealt with for 25, 30 years. With some of the things that are coming, it's like some of that stuff disappears, and it's like, I just don't. I mean, I guess I'm just so used to doing it the old. I hate to say the old school way, but it's just, to each his own. You know, that's what we do. We eat to each his own. I mean, how many people on here would sit there and turn around and make a cement plant out of used paper towel rolls? If you ever seen Monroe Stewart and his N gauge layout, I don't know if he's still around or not, but he had an N gauge layout, and he was a civil engineer and an architect. Then what he would do is he would take bottles and bottle tops and champagne, all sorts of different stuff, and make buildings out of, or annexes or whatever. He took the spray paint can tops and made an oil farm, gas farm out of them. But anyway, all right, folks, I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. There probably won't be another one of these this week. Like I said, this was somewhat impromptu. I just wanted to sit down here and goof off for a few minutes working on the locomotives. And, I figured I knew that Tiagadon had their live stream earlier in the night. I missed that one. I think there was another one at 8 o'clock tonight, but I missed that one too. I know Sparky sent me a whole list of who does what when. The issue that I have is a lot of the 7 p.m. ones, that's family time, dinner time, family time. So I kind of, I'm going to miss those. 8 o'clocks are iffy during the week. We'll see what happens. I might be able to get around to a couple others, but you all know the deal. Wait for the high ball. Green tracks ahead. Be safe. God bless. We'll catch y'all next time. See ya.